In this video, I'm going to take you through the 4 levels of neoclassical metal composition. I'll be using a program called Guitar Pro to write a song live on the spot. As I go along, I'll explain the music theory behind each step. Learn to write your own songs with me in my Riff Lord Challenge class. We'll learn to compose in 8 metal styles: medieval metal, thrash metal, film metal, progressive metal, exotic metal, and much more. I'm so excited for this because it's going to create a massive transformation in your writing. Book a free call with me to get details with the link below. Now, I find that to get the best results out of your composition, you got to set the mood. So let's get a drone going in the background. And I'm going to tell you a quick story about the night Beethoven wrote his 5th symphony. As the clock strikes midnight, Beethoven toils over his 5th symphony. Flickering candlelight casts shadows along the walls. The wind outside howls like a mournful symphony, whispering dark secrets. Suddenly, a knock at the door comes. Dun 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 dun. Who's there? Beethoven calls out. It's me, your fate. Now let's actually start composing. So what we're going to do is enter the magical realm of Guitar Pro. And here we are. So I've got a blank file, and we're going to go through those 4 levels of neoclassical metal composition. The first thing I'm going to do is label this Andalusian cadence. And the Andalusian cadence is a compositional archetype used in classical music. It's just a chord progression basically, but you'll even hear it in metal music, pop music, and actually all kinds of different genres. And the actual cadence itself goes like this. We'll choose the key of E minor. So we're going to start with E minor here. Let's label our chords as we go so we have some clarity on what we're doing. Then we're going to descend the E minor scale. The next move is this D major chord. Get our chord symbol in there. After that, we're going to move down to C. This sounds so good. It's like a timeless progression that just hits the spot every time. All right, the last chord is a B major chord, landing on the 5th degree of the scale. So that is level 1. And before we move on to level 2, we actually need to make this more like a part. Let's say you want your rhythm guitar player in your metal band to play this progression, right? So we'll use the same progression, but we got to make it like power chord friendly. So what we'll do, I'm going to change the rhythm here to quarter notes. And we'll start with this E5, on the 7th fret of the A string, great chord. And our goal here is to make like a rhythmic, more of a rhythmic thing happening. So let's continue the power chords with 8th notes. And I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just copy and paste that out. And a very metal thing to do is to add palm muting to your chords. It gives it that chug effect. So let's listen to what we have. Okay, great. That sounds a lot more metal guitar, right? And I'm going to put our chord symbols in here as we go. Now, once we have that, we can basically use it as a template to move throughout the rest of the chord progression or the Andalusian cadence here. So we're going to go down to the D chord next. Give me the D, son. And we're going to do that same rhythm. Good. And we'll put in, this is our D. Next, we're going to go to a C major chord. The C word. Good. And we'll copy and paste that. And in a second, we'll get a chance to hear what we've cooked up here. The last chord in the progression is that B5. Oh man, I'm thinking of like Black Sabbath's Nib, Nativity in Black. It's a great example of this progression. Okay, now I've got to put in a few more chord symbols here. And this one's going to be B. Now let's hear what we have. That is just magical. And it runs great as a loop. So that B chord sets us back up to return to the 1. Brilliant. Now, we've completed level 1. And let's move on now to level 2. So what we'll do is create a new guitar track. I'm going to call this track, you guessed it, Guitar 2. So imagine you're assigning parts in your metal band, and one of you guys is going to play that first part. Now we need a second part. This could be Dave Mustaine and James Hetfield, right? So what we're going to do is, let's see, what am I going to do? Let's go back to whole notes, and let's go for a different effect here. We're going to still play the chord progression, and I'll start with these octaves here. So that's going to be our E minor essentially, and we'll put that in just to keep some clarity on what we're doing here. And I'm going to go for a contrary motion effect. And contrary motion is when you have two voices moving in opposite directions like that. And I'll show you what I mean here. So once we have that E minor with octaves, I'm going to move up to an F sharp for the third of the D major chord, because D major is spelled D, F sharp, and A. And this is going to sound really good. Let's see, let's put in our chord here. We'll say D over F sharp, pretty fancy. So these chords, we'll call them dyads because they're 2-note chords. I can't wait for this part. So for the C major, oh dude, that's tasty. Okay, that's going to be C over G, right? And then the last chord, B major, let's do this. We'll do an F sharp and a D sharp, and that's going to be basically B over F sharp. Okay, now let's hear how this beautiful progression pairs with the first part. Ooh, so good. So one guy could be strumming those chords, these open whole notes, and the other guy's kind of doing the chugging in the first part. So that's level 1 and level 2. Now we're going to proceed to level 3. So I'm going to start another track here, and we'll go guitar 3. And for guitar 3, we're going to add a melodic component. So I want to get way up high here. We'll start on like the 12th fret just to really get out of the zone of these other parts. And when you're writing music, you want to kind of leave space in between the voices so that there's a nice clarity there. So you can see that in the first part, you know, these notes are heading down the scale, and they're in a little bit different register than the second part. The second part is up a little bit higher. And by the way, even if you can't read music, you can see this contrary motion effect happening, that E comes down to D, down to C. And in the lower part, it starts on E, it goes up to F sharp, and then up to G. So you're getting this effect. And it just sounds so good, man. There's something magical about that contrary motion. So we're really going to go for that same contrary motion effect with level 3 and our melody. So we're starting on the E note there on the 12th fret. That's the root of the E minor chord. Then let's see. Let's go up to F sharp. And I really want like vibrato there to give these notes a little bit more character. Then we'll go up to the G on the 15th fret, And hell, we'll go all the way up to the B there. So let's see what we got. Oh. That is just gorgeous, right? Kind of reminds me of like Zelda. You know, I know there's some cues in Zelda, like Gerudo Valley, perhaps, that have a bit of that Andalusian cadence effect. Now, there's just really one level left that I want to fill out here to give this piece a nice full sound. So we're going to go guitar 4. Whoops, guitar 4, there we go. And for the final part, I want a melody that's a little bit more distinct and rhythmic. This melody here is really just kind of more texture. So our main melody, let's see, what will we call that? Texture melody. You could call that whatever you want, but sometimes it's nice to label your parts so you have an idea of what you're doing. This is like dyads. And then we've got our main rhythm part there. Okay, so for level 4, I want a melody that's very strong and distinct. So we'll start on that root note E. And let's see. I want to do, a half note there. And when you write your melody, try to keep things stepwise most of the time. That just means don't make big skips throughout the scale. So let's go back down to quarter notes here. We'll do an F sharp up to the 3rd degree. So we're basically just marching up the E minor scale. Let's see. Oh, that's nice. Okay, now moving to bar 2. You're thinking about the chords. What are the notes in the chords, and how can I accent those within the melody? So in E minor, it's spelled E, G, and B. So I've got the root there, E, and I've got the 3rd here, G. This middle note is just like a passing tone, just a beautiful passing tone that our ears really buy. So next chord is D. So we're thinking D, F sharp, and A. Let's see. I'll do the 3rd. And then I'll go down to the root like that. And let's see what we get. Yeah, nice, right? Okay, now we're thinking C major. And that's C, E, and G. It's like a puzzle to solve almost. I'll try the 5th of the chord there. Then what? Maybe let's go down to F sharp. Boy, can I get away with that? I think so. This will be, what would that be? Kind of like a neighboring tone, because you got a chord tone here going down to the neighbor and then back up to the 5th. So let's see if we have something that makes sense here. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, the last measure here is the B chord. So we're thinking notes out of the B chord, B, D sharp, and F sharp. What could we do? Let's go 5th, which is F sharp, and then let's try the 3rd, D sharp. Okay, now this will be our main melody that you could have your lead guitarist play it, or it would work as a vocal line really nicely as well. Now we're basically done. That's all 4 levels of our Andalusian cadence progression here, which really will give you that neoclassical sound. You'll hear this just constantly in metal music. And let's listen to the entire thing now and see how it sounds. Yes, just perfect loop, right? the full tabs for this lesson at my Patreon page below. That's where I keep all of my courses. I've got over 1,000 posts. You can get Discord access. But the best way to learn music theory and composition is that live class I mentioned, the Riff Lord Challenge, and that starts next Tuesday, November 5th. You're gonna want to move fast on that though, as seats are running out, so you can book a live call with me in the description below. I can't wait to meet you and talk about some metal.